I don't see the screen on right now. I want to welcome you though, so thank you. Hi, I'm Jeani. We're in a different room today, and hopefully it'll just be a bit of a transition. But I was thinking in a different room, maybe that calls for a sort of different approach to our class today. Gentle yoga, 1 p.m. Thank you for joining us. We're in a smaller room, and it makes me feel a little more intimate in this setting. And I was thinking about how the class usually starts from a standing position. So maybe today we're in a smaller room. Let's start in a smaller space and therefore a smaller home base. Let's start down at the mat. And we're going to still have a little bit of, let's see, warm-ups, but from a seated position. We'll have the modified Sun Salutation, but very modified from the floor. It'll give you an option at the very least. And if you would rather have the regular one, you're more than welcome to go on your own if you can remember that sequence. So just sitting at the center of the mat, getting yourself comfortable on a folded blanket if that feels good. We'll just go ahead and give ourselves a few rocks from side to side, forward and back on our sits bones, just so we see center. We feel center, So as we're settling in, we're just going to quiet down as we usually do at the back of the mat. We're just sitting this time in the center and noticing the breath. Begin the practice of arriving. If you have an intention, feel free to start the intention. Or just continue to focus on your breath. Your attention may fall from the external as you go more inward. Notice how the mat feels under the sits bones. How the breath is playing at its natural state through the nose on the inhale, as well as through the nose on the exhale. Move into cultivating our breath with a little more intention. Let's start to focus on the inhales, bring a little expanse to the back of the throat with each inhale. The expanse at the back of the throat with each exhale. And as you develop your more relaxed ocean-like breath, hearing that deep sigh at the back of the throat with the sound of the ocean. You can stay connected to this deeper, more relaxed breath by just simply becoming aware of it. All right, we'll go ahead and start moving in through the limbs. Now, usually we start with having a grounding exercise, our standing embodiment exercise. So let's bring out our feet out in front of us. And instead of being on our feet, we'll just sit on our sits bones and feel as if that connection to the earth is like that connection you're feeling under the legs. From the sits bones all the way to the heels. We're still going to warm up. So beginning with that deep breath in, feel as if you're drawing energy from the root through the sits bones, all the way up the spine, through the neck, through the crown of the head, and kind of hanging around there at the crown of the neck, lifting, energizing right there. And you can feel this upward energized feeling in the torso, and then exhaling, feeling that energy returning, reversing order down the torso, down the spine, back into the earth, fully engaged with the exhale, expelling the air out, bring the navel towards the spine. And then with the next deep inhale, we're just going to slowly point the toes. And then exhale, flex the feet. Let's go inhaling, point the toes, exhaling, flexing, pushing out towards the heels, through the heels on the exhale. Just a couple more times. And see if you can really engage the core. Feel rooted at the sits bones with that very last exhale. And then we're going to sit once more, nice and tall, drawing the energy inward with our first inhale. And then we're going to exhale, allow the legs and the feet to slightly roll to the right side. Inhale, back to center or all the way over to the other side. Yes, it's that horizontal mapping of our foundation. And we're sort of just rolling on our sits bones and backs of the legs, but kind of finding that foundation from left to right, just as we do when we're standing, but in just a smaller area with the feet. Let's go ahead and meet back at center, dropping back in. Now we're going to draw both feet inward for that easy seated position once more. One leg is just out in front of the other. Don't mind the knees so much, but try to feel that even distribution of weight on your sits bones, just as we did before we crossed the legs. It might be a little off, but just try to get as much of that support in the sits bones. We're going to sit up nice and tall with the next inhale. And then exhale, start to make small circles at the pelvic bowl where the spine meets. We're going to be lifted, energizing upwards as we do, even in mountain. And we're just making that stirring the pot position here, pose, in warming up, and just finding how our hips are going to feel right there. Just doing this. And then we'll stop once we identify that perimeter and meet back at center. Inhaling nice and tall. Do the same thing. Upward, lifting while we go towards the opposite direction now in our stirring of the pot. And this is just to feel how it is on this side. We're opening up the hips, much like we open up the ankles during the standing portion of this version. But here we are sitting and just getting a little lubrication at the hips now. We'll go ahead and drop back in. Switch the sides of switch the positions of the top feet. Top goes to the bottom, bottom goes to the top now. You might feel a little, off again, so just resituate yourself if you needed. Again, sitting up nice and tall. And then we're going to draw the hands upwards. The arms are going up. And then exhale, hands down, heart center. And finally down to the sides. Relax the arms, palms are facing up. Now let's go move on up to the shoulder stretch relaxation portion of our warm-ups. Inhaling, we're bringing the shoulders up towards the ceiling. Exhaling, we're rolling them back and down. We'll do that a total of 4 times. Each inhale is a nice drawing in of energy and lifting, while the exhale is really just releasing and only trying to bring those shoulder blades back and down, just melting down the back. And that way we get a little looser in the shoulders. We get them lubricated for our morning's practice. Let's go ahead and inhale up and repeat the shoulder rolls, but this time forward rolls for the next 4. And eventually, if you haven't noticed by now, we're pretty smooth by the time we end up at our 4th breath cycle round. We're kind of up and, really precise, and then it'll just get smoother. And you'll have that nice little flow with the shoulders. Okay, let's move all the way up towards the neck now. Sitting up nice and tall. You can place your hands on the knees. You can place them palms up, whichever feels better for you. We're feeling more of that lifting action, the energy from the root all the way through the spine, through the crown of the head. And as that lifting is still going on, then we can exhale right ear towards the right shoulder. Inhaling, the chest even lifts. Exhale, we just turn the gaze. That nice sort of neck twist to the left side. And then see if you can relax those shoulders down the back, tucking in at the mid-back. If you can give that subtle little bit there. But as per our warm-up, sets. We're going about 4 full breath cycles here. And you know, maybe the eyes might land to the very rightmost side at the bottom of your last exhale. Inhale the eyes, the head turns. The head is completely lifted at the top of the inhale. So all we have to do is exhale over to the other side. Inhale to lift the sternum, lengthening. Exhale to turn the gaze and working through the next few breath rounds. See if we can really facilitate the release of any unneeded tension, stress, and that just feeling that just, energy reaching every single point of the body. And then after the very last exhale, bring the gaze and the head and the crown of the head all the way back up to center. Allow the exhale to guide the eyes downward. And we'll stop somewhere about 3 feet in front of us. We don't want to crane the back of the neck. We do want a slight tilt at the crown of the head towards the ceiling. And then each inhale will give us a slight lengthening at this diagonal tilt. And you may even find with the exhale, the shoulders just as a set melting down the back. A soft gaze. And then let's bring the gaze upward, past the midline, towards the ceiling. And when you can see there, you can just stop craning the neck. Use the next few breaths. See if you can open up the front of the throat, the tongue, the jaw. Small O's to larger O shapes with each breath. Usually through the nose, but if you want to lull out the tongue on an exhale. And when you're done, you can bring the gaze back to center. And we'll just go ahead and loosen the shoulders, flick out the wrists, bring the legs into a staff position and just tap out your knees for a bit. We're going to come into a low lunge from here, just so that we can get a better bearing of moving into these modified sun salutations. Now, with our low lunge here, we're just going to bring the front foot onto the mat, and you can walk the hands upward and try to just bring the knee over the ankle, putting that positioning in. And then we'll go ahead and tap this right, tuck the right toe, and start to lift up this right knee, bringing both the palms to either side. Let's go ahead and walk the feet back to each other. We're in a downward dog. Now we're just going to bend the knees deeply, come on down to the feet like a forward fold. And we'll come all the way back up here, just bringing the hands to help walk ourselves all the way back up. Now, coming here, let's move into our sun salutations, just a couple here. So bringing the hands down, we're going to really, not fold at the hips, we're really reaching downwards and we're moving the arms up to reach up towards the ceiling, and then exhale. Now we're hinging at the hips, engaging the core and coming on down. Go ahead and float the hands down, walking them down if you need. We're going to stay into this lengthy forward fold for just a moment here. Give yourself a sway of the hips to the side. You might just roll to the edge of the feet, but bring the feet back down. You can alternately bend one knee and then the other. So you can move through these position plays at the foundation of the feet. And then see if you can straighten out the support of the legs with the next couple of breaths. And then we're going to slowly roll up, walking the hands up. Bringing the hands to face forward. Let's go ahead and bring them to heart center and bringing the palms to press, watching them reach up to the ceiling. Let's separate the hands and hinging at the hips. Fold one more time. Our second fold. Just a little less time here. Go ahead and sway the hips. Bend one knee and then the other. And then we're going to inhale. Press into the fingertips or wherever your hands are contacting. Maybe they're the shins, ankles, the floor. But we're half lifting here, nice and long. In both the legs as much as you can. Keep the micro bend if you need, but in the back from the tailbone to the crown of the head. And then we fold one more time. Inhale, press into the core, press into the feet, engage the core. Arms are out. You can either walk them up, slow roll up, or inhale all the way back up with the power of that strong inhale and a strong core. Hands down, heart center. Let's have our walking meditation, pressing into the hands, lifting the right foot. Exhale, right heel, ball of foot, toes down. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale, the left foot down. Inhale, right foot up. Exhale, right foot down. And at the top of the mat, we'll meet at mountain. Looking down at the fingertips, pressing into the palms. Watch the fingertips rise, elevating the arms above the head. Separate the palms, hinge at the hips, engaging the core as you walk on down or float on down to your second fold. Let's inhale, half lift here. Exhale, plant the hands to either side and bring the right foot down and the left foot down. And inhale, shoulders over the wrists, bringing down the knees, untucking the toes. And we're just going to try to widen the tops of the shoulders right at the upper back. Just pressing into the arms, making sure hopefully your shoulders are not past your wrist, and bringing the shins to press into the mat, helping to relieve any pressure at the knees. We're engaging our core. We're making sure the belly button is drawing towards the spine and the lower abdomen is engaged. Let's go ahead and tuck the toes, lift up the hips, and exhale, bring the hips up and back into our down dog. Go ahead and walk your dog for about 5 breaths or so, making sure that you get any movement that feels good to you here. You can swivel the hips, engaging the core all the while. You can make sure those shoulders are not rolling into your ears by simply making sure the crooks of your elbows are facing towards this top of the mat. Points of the elbows towards the back. And then with the next inhale, let's go ahead and roll our eyes towards the hands and then walk the hands to the back of the mat to our fold. Stepping back if you need to. You can always fully exhale into the fold here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold once more. And prepare to come out once more. Slow roll up or strong inhale all the way back up. Exhaling hands down heart center. It's our second walking meditation. Inhale, right foot up. Exhale, right foot down. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale it down. Engaging the core and connecting to that ujjayi breath. And at the top of the mat, looking down at the fingertips. Inhale, watch them rise. Exhale, separate and fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, place the hands. Step the right foot back and the left foot back. Inhale, tall, long, high plank. Bring those heels all the way to the crown of the head. Bring those energy lines into play here. The belly button drawing, just sticking to the back of the pelvic bowl, the spine, just to the ribs if you have to. Inhale, let's lift up the hips. Exhale, push them back into your second dog of the practice and see if your heels can get a little closer to the mat, and don't worry if they can't. It's your practice. One more deep inhale and exhale. And then let's walk the hands to the back of the mat. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come on up. Exhale, hands down, heart center, down to the sides. Just give yourself a moment or two. We did get a little bit of energy going, but we're going to come back down to the floor again. And let's go ahead and come into a different kind of lunge, which you can use blocks or a really big bolster here. What we're trying to do is just support the hips and have this front knee out in this pigeon sort of position. So for some of us, having our shin supported in this position, and my left knee front shin is just here at an angle. And basically just trying to bring the right knee back. And then placing the block underneath the left hip. And just moving a little bit at a time. You may need to have a bigger block. You might need to have 2 blocks. You might need to have a bolster. But what we're just trying to do is have this open, supported pigeon here. And the blocks, they might be under this left hip. They might be a bolster just supporting this entire left thigh. While the right hip is just opening and hovering above. This is a very low lunge. It's not supported, very modified, and hopefully giving you a hip opener to the left hip as well. As we become more and more open in our hips, you can feel the opening at the right hip, as well as having that external rotation at the left. When we're ready to come out, it's really after about 5 breath cycles from that point of being quiet, of being able to maintain and hold this position. So we've been here for at least 3 breath cycles. See if you can give yourself about 2 more. And you might be supporting your upper body if it's getting tired with the forearms, with the hands. And now to come out, we're just going to tuck the back leg, lift up, and start to straighten this left shin so we can start to bring the right shin down and walk it down. We're going to move over to the other side. In here, we'll bring our blocks, or block, or bolster, whichever you're using. It looks like I need to double up on mine. But we're coming into the second lunge and just starting off with bringing this front right shin above the left knee. And once we can find that point of comfort, just walking the left leg back, not landing on this left kneecap, allowing the weight to rest on our right shin, and eventually these blocks that we find underneath our right hip. As you can imagine, with most of our hip openers, we're still trying to maintain the horizontal relationship to each other. So keep them parallel, the hip bones together. Try not to let them dip down lower. So that might affect the height of your support at this right hip. We want our hips level, as well as perpendicular to the top of the mat. Once more, we don't want to lean in. We don't want the hips turned to one corner or the other. So once we can have that support, my back knee is just needing a little more lift. So just make your adjustments. So as long as you can feel those hip bones parallel to one another and perpendicular to the top of the mat, then we begin fine-tuning, opening the left hip now, as our right hip is an external rotation and opening in a different way, in a more flexed position, whereas the left hip is opening in more of an extension. And once you find that comfortable spot, we're breathing the 5 breath cycles, slow and steady. Remembering in this supported low lunge, very, very modified pigeon, if you get tired holding your upper body, you can always bring the forearms down. You can have a block, even a bolster to support your chest. It is up to you, but we're focusing on the breath. The Ujjayi breath, hopefully bringing just that much more focus to the release. And when you're ready to come out, just tuck the back toes here, the left toes. Tuck them, start to shift the weight to the right shin, and you can hopefully bring the hip off of the support. Walking the left knee up while the right leg straightens, and you can move your blocks out of the way. Don't put them too far. The next thing we're going to do is just sit in hero. So if you're familiar with your hero position preferences, supporting the shins and bringing the hips towards the heels, knees together, feet together. You may need a folded blanket, perhaps this folded blanket that I'm laying on, something like that, in between the heels and the hips, maybe even underneath the knees if your knees are complaining. But just find your version of a supported hero. We just want to be able to kneel with our hips in contact with either the support or our heels. And then you can bring your hands upwards onto the lap if that's good. If that is not in your practice right now, just stay here and just focus on hopefully opening the tops of the ankles. Feeling that nice pressure on the front of the shins. If your hero is more developed, you can think about bringing the spine to just sit in the bowl, the pelvic bowl, at this 90-degree angle to the mat. We're looking at about 3 to 5 breaths just there, and we've been here for a bit. So let's go ahead and bring the hands back in front. Go ahead and start to lift up the hips. This time we're going to tuck the toes and get the arch in as well. So let's have a second set. You're welcome to keep the pressure off of your feet. You can control that by just simply keeping the hands on the floor. And as you're able to bring the hips to your prop or to the heels, between those 2 points, you can determine how much weight you can bear. And you're always welcome to come out. Once again, when you're finding your 3 to 5, your comfort zone, you're giving your 3 to 5 good breaths to get there, and then giving yourself about 5 breaths to just simmer and savor that position. Engaging the slower breath, that Ujjayi connection. And when you're done with your last breath cycle, if you're upright, let's go ahead and bring our hands out in front of us. Upright and tuck toes. Let's go ahead and untuck those toes. Gently just allow the feet to rest, tops of the feet on the mat. And once you're feeling like that's okay, you can tap them out. If you feel you're comfortable with this position, like that nice counter stretch of just bearing weight and lifting up on the knees, you could do that as well. Just depends on your openness in the ankles, your toes. So do what feels good there. And then we're gonna meet on our belly. Now you can get on your belly a number of ways. finding my hips down first, and then for that position, just sliding down. Feels pretty good. And again, on our belly for the first time, as I usually say in this class, give yourself at least 3 to 4 breaths to just savor that. And we're just going to turn the gaze or support the forehead with the backs of the hands. I'm turning my gaze now, but you're just giving yourself a little bit of time here. If the turning of the gaze is on one side, we definitely want to give a couple of breaths on the other side. Press into the chest, turn the gaze. If you're still just supported by the brow, at the brow, just continue breathing. And hopefully at some point you're just going to feel those shoulders melt down, that you're not lifting them, that you're not lifting them anymore. And then that'll give you a clue that you're just a little more relaxed now. Okay, we'll go ahead and come into our Sphinx position. Bring the palms down to the mat. Chest pressure just a little bit so we can turn our gaze. And then start to walk the fingertips up. Bring the elbows underneath the shoulders. Small movements here. And we're really just trying to relax everything from the hips down to the tops of the feet. That's like your anchor weight. You can get to the tips of the toes and kind of like walk them away from the pelvic bowl, if you can imagine that. Not very much distance there, but it might help you stretch your skin some. And then we'll go ahead and start releasing and just allow that to be everything from the hips to the feet, your anchor point, while we focus on the top of the Sphinx. From the elbows, forearms, palms to the fingertips, we're just gently pressing even distribution of weight to help support the upper body. And hopefully you're not finding that your shoulder blades are retracting into the spine, but they're protracting away from the spine, kind of like shoulders being pulled in opposite positions. And then you don't really have to press too much. It's just enough effort, energy to keep those shoulders and the torso in this general form. And we're still looking downward. Eyes are resting softly, out of focus, somewhere in between our thumbs or at the tops of the fingertips. Here, let's breathe 5 to 10 breath cycles. Hopefully at the end of your breath cycles, it's that smooth rolling of the breath, just like ocean waves. You may not have very much space to breathe, but it's that slow, methodical breath. Even in this compressed position, it can help circulate a little more energy into those crevices and release more energy that may not be good for you on the way out. And when you're ready to come out, after your very last exhale, we're just going to inhale, feel that diagonal slight lifting with the inhale. And then exhale, slowly let the chest roll downward as the elbows move to the side and the palms down on the mat, back of the hands to support the brow. Elbows should be about shoulder height. And see if you can feel the shoulders release.
Now, give yourself a moment to rest the chin and the mouth on the mat. And if you have your strap handy, I hope you do, let's go ahead and bring the strap here. You can use the strap on a flat side and just bend the knees. Allow the tops of the feet to have that flat strap resting against the flat tops of the feet near at the base of the toes. You can bring the arms to rest to the side, and you can turn the gaze to one side. And all we're going to do here is just allow a soft holding of the strap while the hands are on the floor. The backs of the hands should be on the floor. You're just going to start to bring a little more of the strap into the palms. And then that way you're going to find the feet just get a little more pressure, just a little bit. And hopefully you're relaxed enough, you're not engaging the glutes, the thighs, or anything. You're just using your fingers to kind of draw the strap downward and help you to gently, fold your knees. Now, if you don't need the strap to get to this nice fold, your hands might have just been able to touch the tops of your feet, maybe your toes, maybe your ankles, wherever. And just, again, we're not engaging the lower muscles, we're not engaging the glutes, the thighs, calves. We're essentially just holding on to our ankles or that point on our feet, or with the help of the strap, to bring pressure, weight, to kind of guide this gentle stretching of the quads. Your heels may touch your glutes, they may not. And then let's go ahead and release. You're gently allowing one foot, top of the foot, to rest, and then the other. Take a breath or two, let the hands be relaxed. We're going to press into the chest with the next breath and turn the gaze slightly so we can rest the gaze on the other side, on the other cheek. We're going to go for a second round of the bow. But this time we're going to engage the stretch a little more. So you can use the strap once more if it's really hard to get a hold of the feet or the calf. This material at the calf, that's another place you can hold on to. But as you're bringing the heels towards the glute, as you're just gently not engaging anything in the lower legs, but just breathing, relaxing the hands, seeing if you can just allow a soft grip to hold the feet in place, or the strap that's holding the feet in place. But let's see if you can just get that to be a little bit relaxed. And then imagine with the right leg lengthening the knee downward just slightly. You might press gently into your right hip, gently, but you're lengthening that right knee, right thigh downward. And then as you're still lengthening downward, you're just slightly lifting upwards. You may not even be perceptive of any space being, any distance being made. You might just be engaging those muscles. You might lift a whole half an inch your right knee off of the mat, and then let your right thigh return. Let the grip off of the right leg release. And then once more, get a hold of the right ankle, right calf, whatever it was that you're holding on to there. And then we're going to release once more. Deep breath in, deep breath out. And then inhale, lengthen the left knee away from the pelvic bowl. Lengthen it downwards just slightly. And then lift up. Now, you don't have to do it too much. If you're feeling any type of pressure or pain on the knee, don't, release a little more. If you're, putting too much pressure, that's not good. It's just a slight bit of a lengthening so you can lift up and not have your skin dragging. But you don't want to press your knee really hard. That's not the idea there. So we're lifting this left thigh just slightly, or it could be half an inch up. It just depends on the strength and the opening. And then we can exhale, let that left thigh return. Let go of the left calf material, strap, thigh, ankle, foot. Just let it go. Let that left leg get long. And we're going to allow the right leg to release. And then just breathe. Now after you've gotten your breath there to release, we're going to make our way to our back. Check the time. Doing really well here. We're going to come in for a supported bridge. We did that last class. So as we're making our way to our back, and again, if you have a special way to do that from your belly, go ahead and do that. I like to extend the one arm and just roll onto the back. That requires kind of gentle, slow shimming of the hip and then shoulders. Just an inching back little by little onto the mat. If you have a different way, please feel free. And once we meet on our back, we're coming into a bridge position, as we mentioned. Get your props next to you if you need, but definitely the blocks, we might need one or two. We're going to start with a regular bridge, and then we'll bring the props into play with the second one. But our first base bridge position, we just want to make sure sacrum is feeling nice and supported. We're not rolling onto one side more than the other. Feet are, near the buttocks, but not up against them. You can brush your fingertips against them if you reach down. Feet are about hips distance apart. Knees are pointed towards the ceiling. Having the blocks nearby, but keeping the hands at about that upside down V shape, maybe about a foot away from the hips. Palms down. Make sure you've got the soles of the feet on the mat. Don't have just the outer edges rolled out or the inner. All 4 points of the feet. And then we're going to take a nice deep breath. Start to press into the arms, the shoulders, and the feet as we peel the hips upward. So we don't have to bring too much space here. Here, I probably only have lifted, the back of my, the sacrum up. If you don't have that up, that's okay. Just rolling a little bit upwards. Wherever you are in your bridge right here, we're just holding it to our height ability. Engaging the glutes, engaging the core, belly button into the spine, in towards the spine, the belly just engaged. And then exhale, slowly release the back bones, one vertebra at a time. Maybe it wasn't much, maybe it was just the rolling of your sacrum, but you're rolling back down to the floor. And then allow the knees, just gently roll to the sides of the feet while the knees drop to one side. Inhale, knees back up to center, rolling on the sacrum and the buttocks. We're just going to let the knees roll to the other side. We're rolling onto the sides of our feet, not really moving the position of the feet. And then we'll inhale, knees all the way back up, sacrum fully down. And make any adjustments in case you felt skin pinching or any misalignment with the spine and the neck. Keep that all one nice long line. And we'll come into our second set of bridge, supported this time by our block. So I'm keeping it at the side. And, if you really like a high bridge, supported bridge, you may need 2 blocks if you can't use the highest setting on your 1 block. It's up to you. So coming back into our bridge, let's go ahead. Inhale deeply. Exhale, pressing into our points of contact, lifting the hips, engaging the glutes, and then bringing our prop. Maybe it's the flattest side of the block. Maybe you have to kind of explore, but you really want to make sure the sacrum is supported. So you might have it closer to the tailbone if you're on a narrower edge. If you have that flatter low edge, you can have the entire sacrum supported. That's nice too. If you're at the very highest setting, you're on a balance beam, that's for sure. And be careful of that. Anyhow, here's a nice compromise. And we're just in our bridge, being supported. Now you have an option to extend the legs if you like. Then you can get even more of an extension with each hip. Maybe only do one leg. Maybe you do both. But it's always that finding that up there. And then once we find that spot, And then give yourself the good 5 to 10 breath cycles here. Or supported bridge, your version of it, whether that's on a medium height like mine, a higher height if you're more so inclined, or on the lower setting. Or maybe you're just in a good old-fashioned base bridge and you're liking that for your second round. And from that point where we find our sweet spot, we just breathe the 5 to 10 breath cycles. See if the last few breath cycles can roll through the body like ocean waves. Now, as you approach your very last breath cycle, if you're on your supported bridge, first thing to do is get a hold of the blocks, and then you can start to draw the soles of the feet towards the mat. And once that's stable, your knees are in that base bridge position. We're going to release the block once more and bring the arms now fully extended, palm side down, upside down V, about a half foot away from the hips. Bring the shoulders, the arms, the feet into contact, and slowly inhale, lift the hips, remove the block. Vertebra, one vertebra at a time, goes down until your hips are the very last to meet. And then bring the shoulders out away from the spine. Take a breath here. And with the knees still bent, we're just going to give ourselves one more windshield wipe to either side. Doesn't matter which. Just roll to the sides of the feet. Let the knees drop to one side. Inhale up. Let the knees drop to the other side on the exhale. Inhale up. And then let's prepare for Savasana. Now, coming onto your back, release one leg and then the other. And, I'm going to sit upright while you make yourself comfortable on the floor. Shavasana is that time for you to just allow the body to respond to today's practice, giving the space now to be alone with the breath. So making yourself comfortable, any last minute moves, any unpinching of skin. And if you're in an air conditioned room, cover yourself up if you tend to get a little cold. And for the next 5 minutes, any thoughts that should come up, any achiness, as you begin the descent into the Shavasana, allow any acknowledgments, and then just return to your breath. We'll hear the bells when we awaken.
note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room. Finally, back to your breath. As you embody your physical vessel once more, moving the fingers, toes, feeling the mat under you, the air around the space. As you begin to reconnect, I invite you to return to an upright seated position. However you get here, just note that our breathing exercise is going to include a simple meditation as well. So sitting upright, let's go ahead and bring hands to heart center, inhaling nice and tall. Exhaling, allowing the shoulders to melt down the back. I invite you to imagine the deep ocean breath. And as it's rolling in the energy from the root, circulating up through the spine to the crown of the head, and returning through the spine back to the root, and recirculating here within the body as we breathe in and breathe out. Imagine with the next meditation exercise, the next 5 things that come to mind that you can see, slightly opening the eyes. Just think of 5 things that you currently see right now. With the next breath, imagine 4 things. Think of 4 things that you can feel right now. I can feel a slight breeze. I can feel the mat under my seat. I can feel my hands touching. With the next deep inhale, think of 3 things that you can hear. And then with the next deep breath, think of 2 things, imagine 2 things that you can smell. And with our final last breath here, think or imagine of 1 thing you can taste right now. And with this ends our class today. Thank you so much for joining me here at our ACC Gentle Yoga at 1 p.m. in a different room, a different space, and hopefully you enjoyed today's class. Thank you so much. Namaste.